Right, doing a fret leveling job on this. Sorry, I'm going to have to do it from a funny angle. So the nut, I've taken the nut off so that my sanding straight edge or leveling beam will be able to sail past that nut, so that I haven't got a restriction. I've taped up all of the pickups to make sure that no filings get into the pickups and do them a right wrong turn. So let me just try and prop it up. Let's get a bit of an idea. So first thing you do is, as I'm sure you'll be able to see, is you get this notched straight edge. It's two-sided for two different set necks. So one will fit a Gibson style neck of any make, and the other one will fit, turn it over, and you've got the, for a Fender style neck. So you've got a very different length neck position of frets. So turn it over. I will label these up as well. So you've got the 25.5 inch neck and a 24.7. The 24.7 is the Gibson style. And this is Curtis's guitar that I'm making more playable because it's got a lot of fret buzz going on. So some of the frets were a little bit high, so when you play you get a bit of buzz off of it, you get past that fret and then it clears. I've changed his bridge from a standard Tune-O-Matic to, I don't know how well you can see that, but a roller Tune-O-Matic, so he's got less tuning problems. What happens is the string grips on them on the saddles, so when you're tuning it, you get it in tune, you play it, the vibration, high vibration of the string will then release where it's gripping, and then the tuning will change. It will usually have the opposite, a problem of going sharp, and you end up with a flat note. So it's quite cool. Also giving you bridge piece. Right, so I've got the neck nice and straight. What you want is no light, be able to get underneath here. If you see any light coming, you've got to adjust the truss rod in here. There's a little cover on there you take off. Excuse me. So I straighten the neck first to make sure it was absolutely perfect, and then get a marker pen and you go along very carefully. You can tape up the fretboard, but if you've got a steady hand like mine, don't need to worry too much. And if you just get some black or blue, it's just a nice dark colour marker, and just mark on the top of the frets so that as you run the leveling beam with a nice fine grit sandpaper on the bottom, you don't want to say it's going to scratch it up too much, so a nice fine grit. You can use a 600 grit even. The finer the grit probably the better, because it means it's going to take less off, which means you got less chance of putting a big flat spot in there. So if you kind of get a little bit too concentrated in one area, which is going to cause a different kind of an issue, and that kind of an issue, if you get a little long flat spot running the length of the neck where you've just done one area too much, what you'll find is you'll play an open chord or play a certain string and it will sound fine until you go and bend the note, and then what it's going to do is that flat spot means that the string's pushing lower than all the rest, and as you bend it up it's going to catch the fret in front where it's slightly higher, which is the normal level, and obviously yours was too low, so it's going to bottom out, which can cause fret buzz. And the only way to cure that is either re-level it or raise the action from the bridge. which causes another problem. The whole reason we're doing this is to get the action low, make it really nice and playable. So mark them up, and then you have to make sure it's the leveling beam. This one's come from quite a cool company actually. If you look up Crimson Guitars on YouTube, they're doing a 2020 guitar build off of all the best builders in the world at the moment, which is pretty cool for charity. Well worth a look. So what we're going to do is, someone's come to the door. Okay, so you very carefully want to make sure you get in even sanding. So you want to be going no pressure, weight of the tool doing all the work, and slowly go full length, work your way across. Straight away I'm going to do two major passes so that I can see. Now off camera I've already done a couple of passes. I decided I was going to film it, so I'll give you an explanation. So what we've got is, this one's got no pen on it, neither has this one, apart from a little bit at the end, and that one hasn't even been touched yet. And the one on the other side has also had the surface removed. The one in front of that's been removed either side, with still a bit of black on the top. This one's got black there, there's nothing up this side. And where that's been sanded, that one's had quite a bit taken off, and so has that one. This one hasn't even been touched. So this one was low, this was high, this was high. This one still hasn't been just about being touched, and this one hasn't been touched at all. These three are well sanded. Let me see if I can show you. If you can see this, don't know if you can see it. So this has got black here. Don't know where you can see it. It's black there and it's silver there, so it's been sanded there. These frets were all over the place. This one hasn't even been touched. Still got black all the way over it, silver either side. So this one's still very low. These were very high. So there's a lot of work to do yet. Let's keep going. Now the idea is, the general idea is, let me see if I can get this out. Hey. So the general idea is, you've got to keep going very, very slowly, methodically, until you've just got the last of the black. If you kind of know you're right on that, you know, very, very tiny amount, chances are, if you already had a fret job done on the neck before, and the frets have already been done and they've already been a little bit low, and if for whatever reason it could be stored in the wrong place, you know what I mean, next to, you know, damp conditions, next to radiators, in direct sunlight, that kind of stuff, it makes it all of the wood and the neck and everything move. It can actually, if once or twice a year, if you don't oil the fretboard, the wood of the fretboard can shrink slightly, which makes the fret come a little bit loose, and they can lift, which is obviously going to give you a high fret. So several ways of dealing with it. You can either just very carefully with fret pullers, just lift that fret up a bit more, get some glue underneath it and compress that fret down. You can always try using a proper fret hammer and bang the little bugger back in there. Sometimes they'll go back in. If they go back in, you're lucky. Obviously on extreme circumstances you've got to take the fret out and put a new fret in. So let's just keep leveling for the minute. Don't want to put any pressure or weight on this tool because you're going to sand too heavily. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time in each area and move much slower. So I'm doing slightly more passes as I'm coming across the neck, because there's quite clearly quite a lot of material to be moved. I'm going to come back again nice and slow. If you put pressure on the tool, what's going to happen is, especially if you're a guitar player, you'll know this, there is, if I hold the body still, you've got a spring in the neck. Alright, so if you put too much pressure on there, as you're coming down, you're going to be pressuring that neck down, which means you're going to actually file a bow in it. So you want no pressure at all. That neck will support pretty well. Put a little bit more support underneath, more centre, and that'll spread it a bit more. So it's just really about taking your time and enjoying it, chilling out a little bit, you know. There's a bit we got to do with this guitar, just to kind of show you what guitar we're working on. This is Curtis's that I bought for him. It's not an expensive guitar, it's called a Benson, but it's a Les Paul style. As you can see, I've taped up all so that no filings can get into the, and it's a really stunning little bit of kit. Very, very nice guitar. For not a lot of money, it's an awful lot of guitar. And of course, it's not a Les Paul, right? But we've changed the tuners and put good quality locking tuners on there, and upgraded this bridge, as I said before, for the rollers, and we've kept the original tailpiece because I believe it's slightly better quality, feels better quality, had slightly nicer finish than the one that went with the Tune-o-matic, but I've got the other one as a spare. But we did change the posts for the Tune-o-matic because they didn't quite, a little bit too much movement, so the new posts just fit that one just a little bit better, so I did take them out very carefully. So just briefly getting back to what we were talking about, frets. The frets themselves, when they do lift, as I say, it can be because the wood of the fretboard in this case is a nice piece of mahogany. It will shrink slightly. They've got natural oils, it holds natural oils in there, and if those oils start to dry out, the fretboard will shrink slightly. So if you just don't want to do it too much, but just maybe once a year or twice a year, if you play it a lot, twice a year. If you pick it up rarely, once a year is fine. You probably won't even change your strings once a year, if I'm being honest with you, if you don't really play very much. And for those that play quite a lot, you might be changing them once every 3 months or less even. So anyway, we're getting now to a point where we're just starting to get a little bit of first coming off of this end on the first fret, and there's a bit coming as the surface has just come off of like most of the second and third and fourth. But when we get to this 6th fret, it still hasn't even been touched, and these have leveled quite a lot. And these, you know, the 9th and 10th fret still haven't really been touched, and then pretty much everything up in the 18th and something like that, and places like that, hasn't really been touched either. So, but I'm sure we're pretty close to it. So let's just keep going for the moment. I don't want to overdo the other end, so I'm just going to concentrate just a little bit more at this end. See where we're going. In fact, you can hear that as I'm doing lower down, it's catching this fret up here. So let's just try and get, we got started getting some off of here now, so we're looking pretty good. And we're looking, got a first bit there coming off on our 6th fret now. I think we're getting pretty close to. Now this side has been wearing down quite nice because this is the 2nd fret job I've done with this now, and this side is still very you know, kind of quite coarse. This one feels fairly smooth, so I'm going to see if I can just speed it slightly up. You can hear the difference with the grit there. Let's just see if we can just take it a bit more down. How's that looking? Yeah, still very low. I don't mind it if it's a bit lower on the last ones. That's not a bad thing, to be honest with you. It's less chance of fret buzz at the end, and when you're up those last ones at such a shallow drop off that you're never going to feel it, but it will reduce the amount of chance of fret buzzing. You should be able to get the action much lower around the 12th fret, so that can only be a good thing too. So let's have a look. That's an awful lot being taken off of that one there. So every time you played in around the fifth and sixth fret, especially in the sixth, because this one would have been so much higher, every time you pushed that, it would have fret buzzed off the one in front of it. So it was for Curtis personally, it was really slowing down his progress. So now, as soon as the last frets to have the marker on, as soon as those last areas just starts to catch it, that's where you stop. Right, you don't have to take that marker off. All you're trying to do is whatever was the lowest point of the frets is that's it. You stop there. If there's an absolute, talking microns, we're talking tiny amount, it's not going to affect the playing. As soon as we get at that point, we're going to put marker pen back on there, clean it up, put some marker pen back on all over the top, and then we're going to re-crown it with a crowning file. Right? And this is only the second fret job I've actually done, so you'll see the first fret job I've done, which is on a spare neck, just as a sample, which I shall show you. So this was the neck I took off the guitar that I'm building for myself at the moment, which started off as just a standard Encore. Now, I bought an Encore from an amazing guy actually a few months back. I bought my new acoustic from him too. I went for the Encore, and the following week I came back with my new acoustic from him. And so big shout out to Alan. Thank you, mate. This isn't that guitar, Alan. In case you're worrying, I've taken the guitar apart. This is another one that I picked up that now is actually a little bit special. So I took the neck off because I put a new neck on it. But I used this as a sample to check out my new fret leveling skills. And I don't know if you can see very well from there, but quite clearly there's an absolutely stunning reflection in those frets all the way down the neck. And I bought myself a Dremel type tool to do the final polish on them with some metal polish, and I think it came out quite nice. I could take it down a bit smoother and a bit nicer, which I will do, by the way, but as a fret job, she's perfectly level. And I took quite a bit off of those, you know, quite a bit. So I'm not worried. These on Curtis's guitar, these are what are known as jumbo frets anyway, so there's plenty of meat on them to bring down. So let's keep going. And what you want to do is, as I say, you don't want to put any flat spots in it. Keep it moving, keep going across the what's called a radius. You're going to keep the form of the radius. Alright, how are we looking? Yeah, we're getting pretty close now, to be honest with you. Every single fret, a little bit there, still got a bit of black on, but the rest of those are nicely levelled all the way down. This one has only just got a bit on each edge, but it's still got all the black still. And these two, that one, apart from a tiny bit there, it's not even been touched yet. And the same with that one. But the rest of them are starting to come back nicely. So Let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm going to swap back to the slightly more worn side very soon. I'm just trying to rough off the most of it to start with. It's a real flat spot there now. So the neck has a radius, and the necks, all guitars actually, nearly all of them, have a different radius. So if you was to get a compass, don't know what the radius of this one is at the moment, to be honest. If I've been a Gibson, I imagine it's around about a 12-inch radius. So if you was to get a piece of string 12 inches long, pin, pencil, and draw a line with the string 12 inches long, that line, that curve, is a 12-inch radius. Some of the old vintage style Fenders and stuff like that, they got a 7.5-inch radius, which is quite a dramatic curve, and they usually got a smaller neck, right? Not so wide. On the Gibson, you got slightly a bigger radius. You can have bigger than 12 as well. And of course, old classical guitars, you know, they've got a flat. They haven't even got a radius. They're completely flat. So the bridge where the strings come off will be flat. The neck's flat. The frets are flat. The nut's flat. I'd imagine this one is probably about 12 or more. So what we'll do is, I've got some tools that check the radius. So we'll check the radius of the neck, and then we make sure that when we set up on the Tune-o-matic bridge, the radius is already set. And I don't know if you can see this, but you can see, I should be able to see that, they start low at the ends and then they're higher in the centre. So that is actually giving the strings its radius. So when you set up the height on the bridge to suit the action height for the string along the neck, the string sitting off the neck should, basically what I do is, when I'm setting them up now, I slowly lower the bridge evenly on each side until with just the top E and the low E on it, and then a string, and then I keep tuning it down, keep lowering it little bit by little bit, quarter of a turn, until I get fret buzz somewhere up that neck. Quite often I'm getting it around about the 12th fret. You will need to, as soon as you get fret buzz, you're just backing it back up that little bit until that fret buzz has gone away. It's about as low as you can get the action. If you're still getting fret buzz and the action still get, chances are it can be a problem with the nut. Maybe the grooves on the nut to carry the strings are too deep, or what you'll find is, on this one, the heads, they go down the neck, and then the headstock is bent down, okay, a couple of degrees or so. And if the groove in the nut isn't angled pretty much the same for the string to come over the top and then the string to angle down to the machine head, then what you're going to get, if it's too level or just a little bit this way, what's happening is, as that string comes through, the string is not touching the correct part of the nut, so the string's coming this way. And what happens is, if it's not resting on there and coming down properly so that it's tight and it can't move, and if it's angled a little bit this way, then the string's vibrating here in the nut, and that's going to give you what sounds like fret buzz. Kind of is, but it's not really. You can get like a sitar kind of sound. I don't know, maybe someone out there quite likes that. In fact, Jason, you know I'm talking about, Jason, you probably like a sitar sound, because I know you've just bought yourself a new instrument which does a sitar sound, so I'm sure there's a place for that for you, mate. But and your guitar's getting levelled next, as we've discussed. So we're nearly there. Let's keep going. So there's just several things to check, and if you do it in the right order and you take your time, you will resolve any possible issues that are going to give you tuning problems or fret buzz problems or anything else come to that. And this is really starting to look a little bit more like it, to be sure. As I say, you got the 12th fret there, 13th, 14th. From the 14th, I've still got nearly all my black on there. And this next level, double check the neck. I've definitely straightened the neck. It's all fret problem, right? So let's keep going. So once you get your action down, if you get it to that point, you got your action, it looks just where you like it, nice and low, and you're just still getting that little bit. What you do is you put a little bit of relief in the neck. So what you're going to do is your neck's completely level, your frets are completely level. If you put a machine straight edge along it and check it, there's no light coming between them. That everything's touching nice. And you get your action down. It's just that last little bit. Back your truss rod, or just tighten it slightly, just to kind of put a very slight bow, and that's going to give you a bit of relief. What it's going to do is going to make the nut come up just a tiny little bit, and it's just going to give you that extra hundredth or thousandth of an inch tolerance. I'd love one, mate. I'm just making a little video.
Okay, cool.
Doing your guitar, how about that?
Yeah. I've just figured out every chord sounds disgusting in drop C.
Told you this is why we're doing the guitars, because he's liking a little bit of drop C, drop B and everything else.
Well, I've had to, because
Elliot's started playing loads in drop B and stuff, which is just, you can't, as far as I'm concerned, you can't do that with a gauge 9 to 42 string, because they just flap around. You need something like a 12 or something.
He listens to people like Freak on a Freak on a Leash now.
Yeah, look, have a look at this.
Oh, let me stick it going.
Yeah, it's getting there. You can actually see the frets that were really causing you the problem before.
Yeah, give me 2 secs.
That's alright, mate. There's no rush.
Yeah.
So,
my frets are just awful.
Yeah, look, I'll show you. So everything's come off of these, yeah?
Yeah.
See, that one's still got black all the way down the middle.
Yeah.
So that one was very low.
Mhm.
And you can see how much flat spot we've put on the tops of these ones. Look, these two are still completely black. So if ever you were playing that one or that one, it was buzzing off the one in front.
Yeah.
If you were playing that one, it was buzzing off the one in front. You didn't stand a chance, bruv. No wonder we had to keep your action up. So anyway, we're nearly there now.
Because I remember the first time I used it after a while, I tried to play Master of Puppets on it because I want to find out really what my dead notes are.
Dun.
It's more like dun, and then just that's it.
Right.
But I tried to do Master of Puppets because I really wanted to see what my dead notes were.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
We'll talk about the right song to frustrate you when you hit your dead notes.
Yeah. Literally, all you heard was the first dun, and then that was it.
Dun,
Buzz,
flap,
buzz,
flap,
buzz.
flap, yeah?
Dun and buzz, buzz, buzz. Didn't hear anything out of it, mate.
Well, you should. Once I've just finished levelling these off, and I'll recrown them for you. Give them a good old polish. You should be able to play it within the next hour.
Alright, well I'll give it a little go then when you think it's
So we're just starting to get a little bit now on here, so we're close.
No, but I won't be able to because the strings.
What?
I'm missing like a shit ton of strings.
Well, we might.
I've got about 17 strings missing off of a 6-string guitar. I don't maths again. All the strings are gone near enough. You can't really play much of it.
Yeah, the 4 strings that were on it are sitting behind the phone at the moment. But well, maybe we can. Well, maybe we can whip the strings off of my other Les Paul copy, and you can have a go. Yeah.
All right.
But one way or another, you're going to get to have a go on this one today, I believe.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah, because
we're getting there.
Got an app on my phone. It's a tuning app, but I need to if I want to have the premium on it, so I have every tuning, I've got to pay £4 a month. So I'm gonna go get my gift card once a month.
Okay, we're just starting to get a little bit. As soon as I get the first bit starting to take off in these 2 frets here, which I believe that one's good. So it's that one. I've got nice flat spots on everything now. Apart from, they all are. Apart from there and that bit there. And so I'm not too worried about them down here because it's going to be dropping off anyway. So I believe on this guitar we will be putting a little bit of relief in the neck. Come on, that's got to be getting there now. We've got first little brushes on the top of that one. Look, you can see when you look at it from the angle, Kurt. Look how much has been taken off of like that one there.
Yeah.
Like these ones here, how flat those tops are. It's taken quite a lot off. It still hasn't quite managed to touch that. Look how flat they are over the side. These frets were fitted terribly. And this is what happens with a lot of cheaper guitars. The wood's nice, you know, it's been finished nicely. Do you know what I mean?
It's a very nice looking guitar.
But I just, as I say, the setup, and it just now it just goes to show, especially when you look at that one compared to these, just how impossible that would have been able to play. And you know, there was a couple of notes up here that would ring out when you push them, but you bend them up to go through a half a step, a full pitch or whatever, and they just go dead.
Yeah, very quickly. You don't even have to bend it much; it just goes.
And I was explaining that radius problems do that as well. But we're going to check your radius when I've done this.
It's a nice guitar, but I like the colour on it.
It's a beautiful guitar. It was definitely a good buy. And for what was it, 100 and
like 200 quid?
What, this one?
No, your other one was 200. I don't know. You didn't tell me this is a present. You never told me how much.
No, the cream copy. Oh well, I won't tell you then.
What of this?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it's present, yeah.
Yeah, but this was like my first movie, because I didn't really have much. And I needed a bigger guitar anyway, because the other ones I had were way too small for me.
Yeah. Look, we're almost there now, and I reckon that we're almost ready to just start crowning them, because bit more. With the amount that I'm taking off of these, I would imagine that you would only be able to ever do a fret job on these frets one more time and then they've had their life, you know. So probably get away with doing one more light fret job, possibly 2 on these in the future, and then it'll be a case of changing the frets because they've come down an awful lot. Now we're just catching this. Just catching this, and we're just starting to get our first little bits of coming out on these. So that, the only ones I'm concerned about at the moment are a couple up this end, because you probably can't see them very well, but the most important thing is a little swig of my cup of tea. It's been a good lad. Let's have a little look. Right, so I think the thing to do at the moment, let's just top up this pen.
Right, I'm going upstairs.
Yeah, alright mate, no worries.
Oh, the purple acoustic, you know, that thin one?
Yeah.
See, drop C at the moment.
And what does it sound like? Look, if you've got a guitar up there, you want to start doing quite dramatic drop tuning, we just need to buy heavier gauge strings for them, alright?
Right.
Otherwise they're just going to flap around, Kurt.
No, they sound fine.
Well, the other thing is, when we're setting up these guitars, we're setting them up for specific string tensions. So if you start doing drop tuning, depending on the guitar, it might take out the relief that's put in the neck on the truss rod. So sometimes if you're going to be, it's what I'm saying, this is why musicians have different guitars for different things, because you might set a guitar up for a drop tuning, and if you put a different gauge string on there and put standard tuning on it, the setup's going to change, yeah, because you're putting different tension on the neck. So you have to be careful. If you want a guitar set up for certain things, we'll set up a guitar for certain things, and that's what you play for that, right?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Otherwise I'm forever changing them.
Alright, it's cool.
Alright?
That means we'll just have to sort out the guitar then, like that sort of stuff.
Look, you got this one.
Yeah.
Got one coming for your birthday.
Nice.
Alright, I've got other guitars. I've got other guitars up there. I don't really get a chance to play my guitars. I told you, they're actually really more your guitars than mine, because you're more likely to play them than me. So,
It's about getting to them, though.
well, is this not what we're doing? I'm going one by one, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, go on. You go and do your thing. I'll see you in a little bit, mate.
I'll see you in a bit.
All right, buddy. X-ray. I'll go just a little bit more, just want to see it. These are all perfect. There's just one here, just this one here, which is like that 8th, 9th fret, and they're just these ones here. If I can just get those just a little bit better, but we're getting there. Let me see it. I think we got that one. Still just 3 frets in question. Still got that 8th fret. It's just about there. I reckon we can get away with that. And just these 2 here. We've got everything else pretty much. A couple at the back here. More. Don't like these frets. Cheap frets are crap. Right, we're good on that one now. Just by a fraction, just caught it. I'm well happy with that one. We just nearly there on these. Nearly there, nearly there. Right, we're definitely there on that now. They're all perfect right up until we get to here. This one hasn't really been touched, so I'm just going to shift the weight back here just a touch. And as I said, it's okay to have just a little slight drop off at the back. Some people put it in there on purpose. You'll find it on quite a few fenders. Definitely find it a little bit more on fenders. There's a few arguments on YouTube about it at the moment, about whether it's the right thing to do. Watched a video from Crimson Guitars talking about it. I watched that only yesterday actually. Is it a problem putting it in? No, it's just going to reduce the amount of fret buzz up that end of the guitar. So anything from the 12th fret backwards, having a, well, we're talking minuscule anyway, just a little bit of a fall off, can only be a good thing, because it means you can get the action down just that fraction lower again for the 12th fret, which is a lot of soloing is in and around the 12th fret and upwards. Definitely, as long as you've got the grooves on your nut set nice, I think you're alright. So the way I usually check that now is string it, tune it, put a capo on the 3rd fret, and you should have just a little bit of spring. Get a bit of A4 paper and fold it over, bit of friction, putting a folded over bit of A4 in there, a little bit of friction on it between the string and the fret. Beautiful. So no fret buzz from the open. Gives you that not the height to not get fret buzz up this end, you know, on an open string, which does happen sometimes and can be really annoying when you're playing, especially on an acoustic guitar, when you're sitting there and chilling out in your own space and maybe doing a little bit of songwriting or just going over a few tunes, and you just want to, you know, you just keep getting that buzz on certain chords because it's just one string. It's just that groove is just a little bit low. Now there's a few ways of getting around it. Some people put some baking soda in there, drop a little bit of super glue in it, and it goes pretty hard. But it's a temporary fix because, let's face it, super glue's not the toughest stuff in the world. And we don't just have bone nuts for sustain and for, you know, tone. We have it because it's bloody hard. It's bone, right? So it's kind of a little bit self-lubricating. You get not too much friction on the string. So especially if you're using like tremolo, you know, you're not, and the string slackening. It's trying to move in it all the time. If it's gripping, tuning problems, right? Snatching and gripping, and you want to say it's going to just nicely, sleekly move. And some people put a nut up here which has got rollers in it. But you have to modify the guitar to a point. If you don't like the rollers or they break and you want to go back to 8, you've got to put a new piece of wood up there because you've taken some of the fretboard away to put it in there, which is, I don't think, is a very good thing. That's how I put rollers in the bridge. On my Fender, that I'm building at the moment, this well, it's not really a Fender, is it? The neck's made by a Squier. Squier by Fender, not quite Fender neck, but closest you can get without buying a Fender neck. I've put the little trees. You sometimes see a little metal bit and the strings go underneath it before it, because it's that top tuner, the top 2 tuners. Such a long bit of string up to it. There's not enough tension to hold it and stop that buzz in the nut that I was talking about earlier on. So I'll put roller ones on there so that just no tension on those. It's the point where I can have a problem with the string not moving, sliding properly when I'm using the tremolo. It's only in that nut. I can put a decent nut on it at any given point, which is not a problem. Now, I think we're pretty much here now. Everything apart from 2 frets. I wish the lighting was better in here so I could show you better. If I can just get a little bit better on those 2. That'd be great. Everything's good apart from those 2. I reckon this is about as low as I can get these frets without having a problem in the future. Let's keep going. We're alright. We just get a little bit of just a touch more, just a fraction. Am I getting anything on there? Let me darken it up on there because everything's now good apart from those 2. See people on YouTube when they're doing this, and they're doing these little delicate little no weight on it like that, and I do agree, don't put any weight on it unless you really need to be removing a little bit more. Just don't go crazy, do you know what I mean? You've got to use your initiative, obviously, do you know what I mean? But if it's feeling like these were particularly bad these frets, to be honest with you. You've seen how much leveling I've been doing with this, and that's an awful lot, to be honest with you. You don't often see them taking that. You might have 2 or 3 or 1 or 2 that's a little bit, and use a little tool which is like a little machine flat bar called Fret Rocker, and you can just check the frets, and if they're correct there'll be no movement. If you've got a fret that's a little bit high, you know, in between 3, you know, you've got 3 frets and the one in the middle is a little bit high, you'll get a rock on it, yeah. So you can individually just using a small version of these, a little 6-inch one maybe, and just bring that 1 fret down, which will be not, you know, which will get you out of trouble and do it. But let's face it, if you've got 4 or 5 or 6 that are rocking around, don't mess around doing 1 or 2, because you're probably going to put the guitar further out than what you started. So the best thing to do, mark them all up, get a proper bar that's almost the length of the whole entire fretboard, do it properly. So let's just, could probably get away with them, to be honest with you, the 2 that aren't quite right, but if I can just do a bit more, then I'll be a little bit happier with that. When it just starts to touch the tops of these 2, I'll stop. What I don't want is them being just a little bit lower than what they appear to be, and then when he starts to we get it all tuned up and all the intonation done, and making sure that, you know, everything's nice on the 12th fret, which is 1 octave higher than the open E string. Ping, ding, 1 octave on the 12th. As soon as we're there, I don't want it buzzing off on that 13th and 14th fret, because they're just, even though they're at the same level as everything else, these 2 are just a little bit low. So when you push there, what I've levelled is still not low enough to just stop that from getting a little bit of buzz on it, and I don't want to do this twice, as I'm sure you can appreciate. So let's just do a little bit more. That's a little bit more. Okay, so I'm starting to just get a little bit of along that top edge. I think if I have, then another couple of strokes should expose silver along that top edge. Do you know what? It's so close. It really is. Talking of fret rockers, let's find out just how far out it is. Now back here I've got some fret rockers. Let me move some of this crap out the way. Think. Are they in here? No. They're in here. Feeler gauges. We could just go straight for the 1 fret rocker. So there's absolutely no rock in these because we've leveled them, right? But there's no rock there. But if I use one of these smaller sides and go just across we're good there. Can you hear that rocking? And we don't get it at the edge where I've got these flat spots. Can hear it. And as soon as I get off that one, she's there. It's perfect. Judging by how much, if I use the flat side of it, it's difficult to say really. That's probably, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit. It's probably almost like that. This doesn't sound like about 1/5 of a millimetre. About a fifth of a millimetre, which isn't in these terms. It's quite a bit. So we're going to keep going. There's only one major threat of this problem at the minute. The rest of them seem to be coming back nicely. As it's coming down, I'm getting closer towards this pickup. The pickups on this guitar are too high, so once I've done a setup, I'm going to lower the pickups, bring them up until they sort of like, you know, clear up, got the right volume. Set up the second one so that it's an even sound, And they've also, if you look at the pickups in a Gibson, what you'll see is some screws, 6 screws, 1 at 6 under each string. And what most people don't know about these pickups is they're the poles, right? They're the magnetic poles that are picking up each individual string. And the reason they've got a screw in them is because you can adjust the height of the pole to change how much it's picking up that string individually. So you can customize your pickups to suit what you want, your sound you want. You've got one string that's just picking out just that little bit sharp, a little bit high. It's like, oh God, it winds me up. Adjust your pole. If you can't take that pole any lower because it's at its lowest adjustment, raise the others and drop the whole pickup. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? You know, makes sense, mate. We've got to be bloody close now, surely. Let's have a look. I'm actually amazed how low that perfect, still really low. Those two are really low. Not so bad on that one. This one is almost right there, so I'm just almost touching the top. I have over a lot of it. It's just one little piece just in the centre that needs to be come down to, but this one in front of it, I'm actually quite shocked how low it is. I'm considering actually lifting it out, resetting it, but just without compressing it down, but with a bit of glue, just without compressing it down quite so far to lift it up, and then I've only got to level that one to the rest of them that I've already done. I'm considering it. But the fact of the matter is, if that one looks like it's got enough meat on it to be able to still be recrowned, then surely all the rest will be. It's a bit deceiving. Where I've levelled the top of the frets and you've got that big flat spot now on the top, it looks like you've just it looks awful because it looks like you've removed so much material. I'm not going to have a lot of fret left. But this one's still got its crown, you see, it's just very low, so it still looks fine. So I know if I recrown the rest to that level, I think I know we're still good. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. Bearing in mind this is my second ever fret job, but it's tools for the job, right? So wish me luck. Let's have another look at this. It's amazing how low that is, really. However, that one just before it is alright, because we've scuffed with the fret leveling beam. We've just about scuffed the entire fret now across that one, apart from a spot which is probably about 5mm across, which is clearly almost scuffing it. So I would call that good. If it was the only one that was low, I'd call it good. Right? I've recrowned them, and that'll be that. Right? Polish them up, done. String it up, set the intonation, and make sure the nut height's good, and you know the usual setup stuff. But this one that's still sitting in front of it, it's still got so much rock on it. can't get over how much rock is on that. And over here, she's touching perfect. Starts almost immediately when you're about 10 millimeters across from the outcome, from the low E. About 10 mil across, you start to get the rock. You can see where the leveling beam's not quite touched it, and you're good for about 15 mil coming off the other way over. So you've got this space of about 20 mil in the centre, sorry, that is just low, and I can't leave it like it because it's definitely going to cause problems. And I've seen Curtis play enough times, and he loves it around that area of the neck. So one cup of tea later. I'm going to keep going for now. I might take it out and change it if I come down much lower and it's not looking good enough. Then I'm going to remove that fret, put a new one in it. You have to be careful that you're not changing the radius of the frets to the radius of the neck. And now that fret in front, I can see I've got the whole top of it now. That's more than enough for polishing. It's more than enough for polishing. That's about what you would leave when you crown it, leaving that tiny, tiny little flat spot. And then when you go to polish it up, you know, use some wet and dry, 600 grit, going up to 1500 grit, going up to, I'll go up to 3000 grit. And then I tape it all up, and I use metal polish and my Dremel with a felt disc in it, and they come out beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But it's just starting to get a little bit. I can see it's just caught the top of that. I need it to just get to the top of that one in front. I'm a little bit concerned about it. That's really, I can't get over how low it is. Let's find out how low. First time I've had these feeler gauges out as well, so let's have a look and see what we got in here. We want it in mil. Can't be too much, surely. Let's try that 0.18 mil. Yeah, that won't go in there. So what we got? 0.18, 0.04 should slide in there, I'd imagine. That's effortless. So it's about 0.08 because there's about, reckon it's about 2 of them. Let's have a look what we got. Let's go thicker. 0.028. And I reckon we're going 0.023. Let's try that one. This is 0.15, and that's just at one point just wants to be able to just try and get under there. It's tight. So I reckon we're probably about 0.12. Let's have a look. 0.1, what we got in here? That's 0.13. Let's try that. And that's just a comfortable snug fit. So I was right, it's just a fraction of a millimetre. It is about 1/10 of a millimetre at the moment. So when I was probably not a bad guess before, and I reckon we can get that down now. It's just a hair in it. Still not quite there, is it? It's even got all these ones at the back as well, which I'm quite surprised about, because there was clearly a nice little, clearly a bit of a drop off on that, and overall was a good, from the 12th fret to the 22nd fret, which is the last fret, I would imagine it was a good half a mil, which isn't a problem at the back there, because it's just giving you more space between your string for those last couple, just to make sure there's no fret buzz. So let's see what we can do with this last one we're trying to get to. You better enjoy this when it's done. Okay, so we've definitely got our 15th fret down now, and it's just we're just still toying with that 14th fret, and it looks like it's just trying to catch it a little bit further towards the centre of the fret now. So let's just top that up, make sure that we're definitely getting it.